Hello, welcome to the debugging Webstack part. That's going to be a fun and challenging track that is designed at basically guiding you through the way to become a great debugger. In system administration and in software engineering in general, things are never going the way we want, the way we want software to behave, and it's very important for you to have the ability to debug. There is a lot of documentation and tutorial out there on the internet that will tell you, how to build this, how to set up this software, but ultimately this tutorial and this documentation might be outdated, or it might be valid for a different version of the software that you have. Your setup might have some specificities that this documentation is not taking into consideration, and basically your ability to debug something will make the difference between a regular engineer and a great software engineer. So today I want to basically help you to get started on this difficult topic that is debugging. Debugging is hard in the way that as newcomers to the software engineering world, you are not sure where to start. Bug can come from a lot of reasons, and basically we want to get you ready to the most common bugs, right? Like you'll see after a few years of experience that most of the time it's pretty much always the same thing, more or less. You are starting from scratch, so for you it's a lot of things, but you'll see that at the end it's pretty consistent, the type of issues that are coming up. So I realized this when I started the Webstack debugging track with Batch Zero, and I realized that it's quite hard to know what commands to type when you arrive on a new server, right? Like you as a beginner, you are not sure what to look for, and so I wrote an article in Linux.com summarizing the type 5 commands that I personally use to when I connect on a server, and that was after I realized that students were struggling with this, and in general, I guess a beginner can take advantage of this knowledge. So today, we'll cover only this part of the Webstack debugging concept page. Below there is some tools. It's kind of like a debugging toolbox that I encourage you to look at. It's basically tips on like the different type of issues that you can face when debugging, and basically what are the questions and what is the how to get the answer to the question. But today we'll focus on the 5 commands that in less than 1 minute will allow you to know what's up on a server. The first one that I like to use is W. It will basically give you few information that are quite useful. The first one is uptime. It means since how long the machine has been running. It will give you an idea of the stability of the machine. Has it been restarted recently, or has it been running for days, months, or years? Then the number of users currently connecting to the machine. That's especially interesting when you are debugging something, troubleshooting something. If your coworker is also changing stuff on his side and you are, then it might be hard to know what's going on. So be careful with this. The third valuable piece of information is a load. I encourage you to look at what exactly is load, but basically it gives you an idea of how the machine is performing. It depends on the number of CPUs of the machine. So a load of 16 on one machine might be perfectly fine, but it might be terrible for other machines. So I won't explain more in this video, but I encourage you to look at it. So a lot of issues are caused by humans. Yeah, we are not reliable. And so it's very good to look at what your coworker did before. It will give you an idea of what type of work he or she was trying to achieve, what he or she did and might have broke the system. If you are totally new to the company or to this server, it will give you an idea of what the type of tasks that are being done on this machine. So that's like usually a very good piece of information that will allow you to start your debugging. Also, it happened quite a lot that like the same issue happened over and over, and looking at what your coworker did is always good. The next command that I like to use if the machine is not overloaded is stop. So it's important to do it when it's not overloaded because stop requires quite a lot of resources. I mean, if your machine is already overloaded, top is not a good idea, but if you have enough resources, it's a very good tool. It will give you the same information as W. So again, W is great because it doesn't require a lot of resources to work. Same if you want to display the list of processes running, you can use PS instead of top. It's not in interactive mode, so it's not as nice to manipulate. But again, like when you are debugging a machine that is overloaded, using PS over top is better. So let's go back to top. I like to press C to get more detailed information about the process. By default, top will organize, order the process by PID, but you can always change this. For example, I like if you like to organize by memory usage, you can type capital M and it will organize by memory. So few interesting information in there. Some information about processing is running. Number of zombies is always something to look for. Also, the memory situation. How much memory you have and how much is being used. Obviously, that's one of a very usual bottleneck for machine, like a lack of memory. So always look for this. And also look for swap. Is the machine swapping? That could be a very good information that something is going wrong. So here, top, I'll go very briefly over it, but basically what user is running the process, what CPU and memory it's using, and like a more detailed information about what is a process. So top, to know what's going on in your machine in terms of processes. Very also casual bug is lack of disk space. That's something that happened a lot. Usually, engineer who just enable a new log and forgot to enable a log rotation on it, or maybe there is a sudden spike of traffic or activity in the machine and it's filling the log faster that it can rotate it. That's a bug like an issue that's often hard to find because your server will behave or your software will behave weirdly, but without telling you it's out of space. So that's always something that's why it's good to follow this kind of framework of commands because it will kind of force you to look at the disk, even though you might not see signs that would guide you to do this. So DF is your friend. I like to use the H flag for human readability. And this is quite important because obviously the percentage is important, the percentage how much space is being used. But you also need to put this in the context of the size of the drive, the disk, right? If you have, let's say, a 2 terabyte disk, and maybe you are writing 100 megabyte every hour, for example, well, you have some time, right, before your disk is filled. But if your disk is only 241 megabytes, like here, your disk is going to be full within, like 3 hours. So basically, having the percentage and the total size of the disk is quite important. Finally, you want to know what's up with your network. So I like to use LPD as my flags, but it's like up to you. And also I like to use N to actually have the numerical port instead of the name of the protocol. So a few things to look for. The version, if it's IPv4 or IPv6. You know, on what address is it listening, and the port is it listening on. And this will basically tell you, what process is listening on what port. One thing that you need to do is run a sudo so that you can get the process in the right side of the column. So by running these 5 commands within a minute or two, you can get a very good idea of what is going on your server, and that's like a great place to start your debugging. Good luck with debugging. I'm sure you'll love it.